side front tire might come off the ground. He took the right line. He's probably not coming up that line. Off the ground is bad.
How long have you been doing this? And what trained you for it?
So I've been working for Big Jeep for a little over 2.5 years. Before I worked here, I used to work south of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania.
Oh, God.
At a resort very similar to Pittsburgh, or to Enchantment. But at that resort, we used to have Jeeps that you guys could sign up and take off-roading with myself, and I would teach you how to do it.
Wow.
So I did that for 5 years. You feel pretty safe now, right?
Yep.
Good.
Well, is it true you guys have to train 400 hours before even driving?
It's probably pretty close to 400 hours. It's 8 weeks.
Okay.
Usually. It can be a little shorter depending on the weather. We give you 8 weeks because you train during the winter, which snow and ice, you don't want to bring vehicles out in. So if we get a big snowstorm, the training, essentially there's nothing you can do. So it's about 8 weeks, so pretty close to that 400 hours. Where'd you get that from?
We had a driver yesterday. We had a personal driver yesterday, and he told us.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close to that.
Ooh!
Yeah.
Ooh! Now that's something.
And there's a series of tests, so it's not like you just go to class, you show up, you sit in the back, and you play on your phone. You need to be active. Most of our training is not in a classroom setting. Most of it's right here where you guys are. And then you have to pass a written test and then 3 different driving tests.
Oh, that's good.
There is a chance that if you signed up for this tour at a different time today, you would get in the Jeep with a tour guide who just passed their last test.
No thank you.
They probably wouldn't tell you that. But at that point, that person's been behind the wheel for almost 400 hours. So it's like getting into an airplane. You don't really know how much training or flights that guy has had, but you trust that he's had a lot of hours behind the wheel. Same thing here. We do have 2 stops. We're actually going to get out of the Jeep, so you're not stuck in here the whole 2 hours. And those 2 spots are our best picture-taking spots. So if you're trying to take a picture as we're bouncing through, your picture might be a little weird. I promise the picture at our stopping point, it encompasses all of this and more.
Wow, you can imagine if your brakes failed coming through there. Whoop, straight off. Straight off.
Really? You know?
Straight off. So what is this trail called again?
It's called Broken Arrow.
Why is it called Broken Arrow?
Well, have you ever heard of the term Broken Arrow before? Anybody?
No.
Maybe to deal with Hollywood at all? A movie? No, nothing? That's alright. It's a really old movie anyway. In 1960, there was a movie called Broken Arrow with Jimmy Stewart. It was filmed not so much where we are right now, but when we start doing some roller coaster ups and downs, that's where they were filming. And it was a western. Yep. We named it after a movie. Yeah, no, nothing like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I might work on that.
So who dug out these trails? Because they seem pretty deep.
you go. More snow accumulates up in Flagstaff, which is just about 30 miles north of here. They get about 100 inches of snow a year. Big change. The tallest point in Arizona is up there. It's almost 13,000 feet above sea level. There's a ski resort up there. They get tons of snow a year.
What's the ski resort up there?
It's called the Snowbowl.
And that's in where?
Flagstaff.
Really? I don't know.
Just about 30 miles north, about an hour of a drive.
Know that. Bring the kids. Let's go.
We drove from Phoenix up to see the Grand Canyon some years ago.
Yep.
And the photography change is crazy. We were up at like 11,000 going over the mountains with tall pines, and it was snowy that time of year.
Yep.
I was surprised.
Yeah, it's Arizona's very diverse. Like a lot of people don't think that. When you hear Arizona, you just think of desert.
Right.
But then when you get here, desert in Phoenix, not so much desert here. You go up to the Grand Canyon, not really desert at all. It's more of like a forestry setting. All right, don't tip us over, okay, Kathy?
Wow. I guess this is where the test is at. It's pretty.
Right.
Oh, that's. Ooh.
So cold in the winters, also not super hot in the summer. So when you watch the weather, if you do that, you'll see Phoenix and it'll say like 115, 120. Sedona is not usually getting above 100 degrees. Not usually. It's a
Whoa.
dry heat, so no humidity, which does make a difference. I like this way better. You can actually like be outside. It's hot, but it's not like a gross, sticky, yucky hot. Yep. I lived there all the way up until I moved here. Oh yeah. That's why I moved here. I wanted to stop shoveling snow. But I never visited here before I moved here. And the first year I moved here, before Halloween, Flagstaff got 9 inches of snow. I was like, what the heck is that? I was like, well, at least it's not here. That's cool. And then before Thanksgiving, we had snow in Sedona. I was like, what the heck? It's a desert. We don't snow there. That was the snowiest winter on record. We got about like 38 inches of snow in Sedona. 2 really major storms, and then some minor storms as well.
Woo. That's pretty narrow that you're going through there.
So what kind of wildlife do you guys think would live in this type of an environment now that we talked about it? Black bears, yeah. Foxes, absolutely. Rabbit.
Deer.
2 different types of rabbits, 3 different types of deer. Elk being the largest. If you go up to the Grand Canyon, they're pretty much all over. They are down here too. What else?
Mountain lion.
Mountain lions, there we go.
Have you ever seen any out here?
I have never seen a mountain lion on a tour. I have seen them while hiking though.
Wow.
Really? Yep.
Did they stalk you?
Kinda, sorta, not really. It's the only animal out here that wants to eat you. Everything else has the potential to bite you, but that's only if you try to pick it up or give it a kick or something like that. Mountain lions, you just gotta pray that they're not hungry. You're not gonna outrun them. You're not gonna be stronger than them. A couple of years back, usually everybody remembers the guy that was in the news for choking out a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So the news just said that, and that's where they left it. This mountain lion was like 10 weeks old. The thing was the size of like an Australian Shepherd. It didn't know what the heck it was doing. You're not strangling out an adult. It's not happening.
Did you hear about that mountain lion attack in Washington? Where there were 2 guys and I don't remember if they were on hikes or not. They were on hikes and they attacked one. And the
not
other
as
guy
bad as
started
I've heard,
running away,
yeah.
so it stopped one and attacked and went and got the other guy. And the one that was initially attacked lived.
Yeah, they don't, it's just like
big are they?
So scary.
Yeah, so it is. Now, I don't know of anybody that's been attacked by a mountain lion in here. So like not on our hiking trails, nothing like that. They've got tons of food source. We see them, but we don't normally have an issue with them like attacking people or even people's dogs or anything like that. Their food source is really good. So.
They only attack each other. First pressure. Yeah.
What about bear then?
So we have the black bear. They're vegetarians.
You see them on the tours or hiking?
I've seen one on a tour, not this trail, but a different trail. And I have not seen a black bear while hiking. No.
You know, they didn't warn us about
Right up we go.
so we didn't know that. They didn't warn us about mountain lions. Oh my word! Look at this.
That's why you don't hike at night. They have animals that'll eat you here.
So we're doing good. What other wildlife? We're missing a couple.
Birds. What birds?
What kind of birds?
Hawks.
Hawks, yep.
Eagle?
Eagles, absolutely.
Rattlesnake.
That's not a bird. We do have rattlesnakes. We'll come back to that because there's some fun facts about those guys. What else? Owls, yep.
Woodpeckers.
Woodpeckers, yep. What about another famous cartoon bird?
Oh, the Roadrunner.
Roadrunners. If you've never seen those in real life, that cartoon was actually an ostrich. Roadrunners are much smaller. They've got like a woodpecker head, like a pigeon or a dog-sized body, and then these like 3-inch long chicken legs. But they do run really fast. Ostriches don't fly, roadrunners do fly. Most people don't because the cartoon never shows you a roadrunner flying. It's because it's not a roadrunner. So that's good on that front. What about some desert creepy crawlies? We mentioned the lizard, or we mentioned the snakes, lizards. Any other guesses as to desert creepy crawlies?
Rattlesnake.
Spiders.
What about them?
Down here?
Absolutely. What kinds?
Scorpion?
That's not a type of spider.
Really?
Spiders and scorpions are completely different.
Oh.
It was a long time ago.
We're learning here.
This public school system failed. Sorry, you had to find out.
No matter what you say, you're probably not going to ask the stupidest question I've ever been asked. And it really was, I mean, I'm going to tell it to you and you're going to think it's stupid, but it's just people don't know. And it was, at what elevation do elk turn into moose? Which, that's not a thing. Elk and moose are two completely different animals. But if you grow up in New York City, they don't have moose or elk there. You just don't know.
What is the difference between those soft, rounded rocks right in front of you? That's the first time I've seen the soft, rounded rocks.
So like what causes these rocks?
Yes, as opposed to the hard.
Yep. Why are they domed?
We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. We're going to get out of here.
And what other creepy crawlers?
So tarantulas is what I was going for.
Oh, you have tarantulas?
It's about as big as my hand.
Wow.
And they're black and furry.
They are furry.
Report on those black and furry.
Yeah.
Brown?
They can be
Look at
black,
that
they can
over
be
there.
brown, they can be like a snowy white color. Different types, different species.
And
Oh,
they
look at
food
the
us,
water mix there.
right?
Not really. Only if you're allergic to it.
Oh, got it.
Which you don't know if you're allergic until you get bit by one. They are venomous to like what they're eating. Alright, look at this spot. Holy moly. This is a good spot, right?
Yeah.
Should probably stop here and take some pictures.
Yeah, we probably should. But this is so scary. Oh my word.
Let's take it a little worse.
Alright, let me know when I get close to the
Oh,
edge.
please don't do that. I'm not looking back. Come on, don't do that. 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 Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want to look back. Oh no, don't do that. Dude, what is
We had to make sure.
Oh, I don't even want to look around. I'm like so afraid now.
That's alright.
From when?
Yep. Alright, so this is what we call the crazy spot. So we'll start with what we used to do with the Jeeps. So you see that rock, not the one with the sword coming out of it, but the one right on the other side of it?
Yeah.
That used to be Sedona's first roundabout. We used to take the Jeeps, and instead of parking here, we would drive you out around that guy.
This right here?
That right there.
Why did you stop doing that?
The stick poking out of it. The other down to the point where they come down.
Are these prickly pear cactus or just regular cactus?
What was that?
Are these prickly pear cactus?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the most common type of cactus that you're gonna see. A lot of the ones near our trail are going to look dead. That's because they're covered in dust due to the wind and the dryness of last year. Do you have another type of cactus? It's called a hedgehog cactus. You can't really see them, but it's these little like spiky.
Oh.
looking things. Those will. A lot of people are like, oh, those are baby saguaros, like the ones you have down in Phoenix. Nope, those are gonna stay about that tall. They only get like 3 or 4 inches above the ground. So what did we think of our first stopping point? Was that pretty cool?
That was excellent.
It's one of my favorite spots. Probably number 2 on our tours, all the tours that we do. It would be number 1, except for the fact that our number 1 spot, or my number 1 spot, is on a trail that takes you up about 1,000 feet of elevation and then looks down on the rocks. The only thing that stinks is the ride to get there is the most bumpy tour that we offer.
What's that one called?
It's called the Scenic River.
Oh, we saw it.
It goes up this old wagon road that we haven't been able to maintain.
63 up, permit 63 up.
Yeah, I'm almost down. I'm gonna hit that first pull off again.
Copy.
It's just we're not allowed to maintain it. AT&T has a cable under the road, so it's been 10 years of erosion. Dave, I'll hit this one since you got her following it.
Looks like he was coming anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna have him pull in here.
Oh, gotcha.
But he's got one behind him, so the general rule is whoever's got more has it. It doesn't really matter. We left at the same time, so we're on pretty much the same schedule.
You guys went a different route?
Yeah, so the way I do this tour, okay, is I like to go there first,
Okay.
and then I go to Submarine Rock,
Okay.
and then we go out for a couple reasons. One, I don't know how comfortable the group is with walking on rocks. Our second spot is going to be a little bit more of a hike.
Okay.
So if you have an issue with that, I don't want to take you to Sub Rock and find out there.
Right.
We don't have an issue.
Said we passed the test.
You passed the
We
test.
can go to Submarine Rock now.
Pass the test.
And then number 2, we do a lot of tours with kids. And if I stop there first and then go up here, the kids have lost interest by the time we get to the fun stuff.
Okay.
So we're gonna do this stop, we're gonna go do the fun stuff, then we're gonna hit Submarine Rock, and then we'll be pretty much out on the pavement by that point. Plus you can see Submarine Rock, well I can see it from here, we're gonna see it a little second here on trail. We live that's because they're doing this every day of their life. Jeep transmissions are usually pretty good. It's just, I mean, this Jeep that you're in has 240,213 miles.
Wow. That's
And
very
pretty
impressive.
Much every single one of those miles is going to be what we're doing today. It's not really 240,000 pavement miles. This is not the oldest Jeep, but it is the Jeep with the most miles. Yeah, I think I found that other one. Maybe.
Ooh.
All right, you ready for the crazy stuff?
Oh, it gets more
Thank
crazy.
you. This is like a ramp. The harder you hit it, the faster you fly, okay?
Oh.
Take it nice and slow. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. The slower you go, the worse it is. So I like to take a survey on all my tours. So we just were at that roundabout there. What happened in 1960 is they pulled up kind of where we parked and they explained what was going on. And then the guests had a choice. They could either stay in the Jeep and ride around or they could get out. How many of you would have stayed in the Jeep? Anybody?
Not me.
One or two in the back.
I would have only because of her.
Yeah, okay, so she's making it.
No, I gotta live up to her thing.
Okay, gotcha.
I wouldn't have wanted.
So now, you wouldn't have wanted to?
I would have had my eyes closed. You know.
Well, see, the funny thing is if you would have done it back then, you were on the safe side. You're on the inside. Now we get to test how brave you guys really are because we're going around this one.
Oh no! Oh.
You made him do it.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, Louise! You didn't even warn us.
Yeah, did I told you we were going around it?
The warning just makes things worse.
Oh my word! I had to close my eyes.
So this is a pretty cool spot. Here in a second, these trees are going to disappear. And you're going to be able to look off into your right and see Sedona. That's where we got into our Jeep. Your hotel is way tucked to the left, so you won't see that. But that's where you got into your Jeep. You can buy your t-shirts and your shot glasses and things like that from there. But more importantly, the rock formation behind it is the tallest thing that you're going to see in Sedona. It's 7,122 feet above sea level. So essentially almost 3,000 feet of rock sitting right there.
Wow.
The rock, doesn't he? I mean, he's obviously changed over years.
Long time.
But do they ever have it where a piece will come down?
Absolutely. Anytime in the winter, that's an option. Alright, got a little speed bump here. Here we go. Yeah, so because this is all sand, it's kind of like a sponge. So water's going to seep in through there, especially if the snow sticks around for a long time. Then in the winter, when that water inside freezes, it's going to expand just like an ice cube. And it does crack the rocks. You can see cracks all the time as we're going around. And sometimes those cracks will be pulled down by gravity. You can see a bunch of boulders over here on the right side. That's how those get there. All right, here we go.
Oh, please, no.
Here we go. Woo. That's the spot right there. So now, if you look down off to your right, you see in the trees that rock formation? That's called Submarine Rock, because it looks like a stuff that the Navy would use. We're going to be on top of the right side for our second stopping point today. So that gives you an idea where we're headed.
You're not gonna whip us around that, are you?
No, we're not allowed to drive up there anymore, so we park and then we walk.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish I could take you on.
No, thank you.
It'd be a lot easier on me. I wouldn't have to walk.
It's still heading up to the prime.
gotta go through them all and get rid of.
They're all different. You can't delete any of them. They're all different spots, different locations.
So cool. It's just so much different.
Take one for the boys.
So has anybody watched the Titanic before?
Yes.
Yeah. So you remember the noise the boat made before it broke in half?
Uh-huh.
Kind of like that creaky, eerie noise.
Mhm.
You want to hear that?
No. No, 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 no. Oh, so friggin'. Oh my word. Oh my word. Why are you doing this? Oh no.
And then remember as the orchestra was playing and everybody was like,
Oh my no. Oh, oh no. Oh. Oh. No, 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 no.
not too bad for a Barbie, Jason.
Man, you are a good driver, I must say.
We're not done yet, so don't give me too much.
Because there is no way.
Compliments till it's over.
That's right, that's right.
We got to be getting out of the Jeep, then you can tell me whatever you want. Yeah, we got another speed bump for you.
Oh my.
But he's got no, he's just out here with no jacket on.
Oh my
That's because
God.
he's working way harder than we are. He's got to pedal up and down all these dang things. Not wearing any seatbelt. He's probably not out here for the first time. So this section that we just came down kind of that like pedestal spot, and then all the way through here, then we're gonna get to a really big opening in like 2 minutes or so. This is where that movie was filmed. You ever want to be a movie star? You're just 61 years too late. But with you now.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. Huh?
You talking about the trees? Yeah. So they look like cedar trees. And that's because they're in the same family as cedar trees. But none of them
Sure.
what you're mainly looking at through here is going to be Arizona cypress trees, which don't do really anything for us. We can't eat or get drunk off of them. But they are important for the environment. So when we drive through here on this bright one, you'll see like these bright blue looking grapes. You can kind of really see them on a couple of those. Those are actually like pine cones. And the only way those pine cones are going to open up and release the seeds is if they catch on fire. The sap needs to be melted. So when you look at the Southwest, California is always in the news during forest fire season. It's because that environment and this environment and Utah and Washington and Oregon, everything that was on fire this year, it's designed to burn. They have trees that do the same thing. Even up in Pennsylvania, we have trees that do the same thing there too. Pretty much every environment is meant to at some point burn down. We are usually either number one or number two as far as fires go. It's just our fires are in the middle of these big open spaces and nobody hears about them because nobody's dying from them. Or getting
Nobody
chased.
built the houses.
Right. That's right. Only 17% of Arizona is privately owned. Which, it sounds crazy, but it's also crazy because Arizona's like the top 5 as far as like size of state. It's all this big open area. Like you can see, anywhere where there's a house, that's the Sedona city limits. Anywhere where there's not a house, that's the national forest. This thing's 1.8 million acres. That one that you're in. There's one to the north when you go up to the Grand Canyon. That's a different size. There's one to the east. When you went to Cottonwood this morning,
Yeah.
you left the Coconino National Forest, which is where we are, and you entered a different one. They're all just these big open spaces.
Pretty awesome.
he's pretty courageous.
You guys didn't ride mountain bikes?
No, not like that.
If we got out, you know, like, where the hell? I wouldn't want to bike on the road, and we're not bikers and stuff.
That's what I said. I was like, what if they want us to open another? We just discovered Oaktown today. Everyone's talking about it. We thought we'd already went there, and we just realized we didn't.
You were in West Sedona, that ain't nothing. That's where the locals hang out. You don't want to be there.
So,
So,
Oh, how are you
for
gonna
the
get?
plants,
Oh,
I don't bore you with everything. There's a lot of the stuff here that's just vegetation for deer and other animals. But I will talk about the ones that we can eat, like our cactus, or the ones that we can get drunk on. So, we'll start with this pine tree right here. So longer needles, your typical Christmas tree looking guy. That's a pinyon pine tree. That's where you get pine nuts from. So if you like pine nuts, or if you like pesto sauce, that's where that item is coming from. Also, that tree produces vitamin C as it grows. So, and that vitamin C is stored in the needles. So probably not today because of how cold it is, but in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, there is going to be vitamin C in those needles. So you chew on them like chewing gum. It tastes like an orange peel.
really?
It's actually pretty good, and it's really good for you. So that's one. Talk about another one in a second. Yep.
I don't think look like they're dead.
That's because they are. Yeah, if it looks dead, like this guy, it's dead. Nothing out here changes colors and drops its leaves.
Really?
Not here. Near Oak Creek, or there's a dry creek bed on your way to your hotel.
Oh yeah.
That stuff will change colors sometimes, but out here, nothing. So our next tree is pretty crazy unique. So we've got, see these little blueberries on that guy?
Yeah.
That's a juniper tree. It's in the same family as the cypress and the cedar. This is actually a female juniper tree. And up here, this is a male juniper tree. That one has no berries. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of tree species in the United States where there's a male and a female version. Our pinyon pine trees, they can reproduce without interacting with each other. Not those two. Those berries are used in an alcoholic beverage. Do we know what it is?
Gin.
There we go. You're 1 for 1. We've got 2 more coming up here in a second.
Gin.
You don't know what a scorpion is, but you know.
I just didn't know it wasn't a spider.
We're going to turn our adult part today. This next one, it's one plant that they make 2 different alcohols out of, and I'll kind of show or tell you why it's 2 different things here in a minute. Get up there to it.
Ooh.
Well, there's blue slate. Anybody know what that is?
That is a yucca.
Yeah, it's not.
That's an
It's,
aloe, right?
Blue agave.
They're all related.
Oh, you're right.
Blue agave.
And so,
Tequila.
not a blue agave.
It's not a blue agave?
It's not a blue agave.
Oh.
If that was a blue agave,
It'd be
about the
huge,
size of a
right.
leaf.
Oh really?
They're bigger.
What is
But
it?
it is an agave. Now, what do we get from agave?
Tequila.
Okay, so tequila's the blue agave.
Right.
Also has to be grown in Mexico. It's like champagne
Oh,
in France.
it's
So now you've got the
Mezcal.
easiest alcohol. Oh, look at you. You got good mouth. Mezcal is made from that.
Mezcal.
So mezcal and tequila essentially start out as the same thing. The process that they put it through makes it different. This is a yucca right up here. So the long, like string bean looking things, they're, like I said, they're related. And unless you see them side by side, a lot of people, it's hard to tell.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
So what are we thinking so far? We having a good time?
Loving it.
Pretty crazy, huh? We're gonna really put the Jeep to the test here in a second.
Oh my, oh
So we've all walked downstairs before, right?
my. Uh-huh.
We're gonna It's a controlled slide.
He's got an interesting idea when something gets dangerous.
Oh, look, it is stairs here.
Where?
Look, look,
Where?
the rocks down here. Look.
I see them. There's staircase.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
And we've got a big slide. Here we go.
It's part of the test.
This is absolutely part of the test.
I would think that it has to be.
The whole, so the first test is a written test, just like any sort of like college test or high school test. It's like, what is this tree? It's a canyon pine. Cool. What can that cactus be used for? Food. And that's it. That's the first one. The second one is on all of the other trails, except for two. This one and our other slow motion roller coaster, technical one. And that is essentially just trying to keep it as smooth as you can. Because on like the Scenic Rim, it's the most bumpy, but it doesn't. Bumpy is not technical. Bumpy is just bumpy. Technical means if I do something wrong, like let's say I decide I'm going to drive with my right side tires up there, we're going to end up upside down. So once they pass those two tests, then they have to start giving tours to guests, only on those trails though. And that's just to start to develop your tour information. I guarantee you, if you were my first ever tour that I did, my tours then are completely different than they are now. My tours now are 100% better. It's just because with time, you kind of learn what to cut out and learn what people are interested in. And then interact with people. It's not, like a lot of my new guys, they get cut off on information. So they'll be talking the whole time. They'll talk about all the little plans, which is fine. That's what you learn to do. But it's more about just having a conversation with the people. And that's what they want. They want to talk. They want to take pictures. So once you learn to have a little bit about 10 tours or so, then you come out here. But instead of with people, you're with 5 tour guides who have clipboards and they're writing down every single thing you do. And it's not like oh, you were really close in this spot, you're going to need to fix that. It's oh, you were really close, but you're failing kind of deal. And this is their hardest thing for them to do. Because going down, it's easy. You're going with gravity. All you got to do is hold the brake down and just keep it nice and slow. Going up is a lot harder. This vehicle, without you guys in it, weighs over a ton. With you guys in it, it weighs more than that. Going up is difficult. I'm going to make it seem real smooth. Those Jeeps came here first, stayed as a group. I don't like to do that. That's why I went the way I did. Even before the virus, I did it that way.
Look, honey, it's bonsai.
That's actually a very good specimen.
Did you see a big
Yeah,
drop
that's
off?
what I want. It looks like it's been
I
trimmed.
mean, travel had to have dropped way off in the last year or no?
No, not really. So we made outside of our budget, we hit like
I didn't bring my camera.
like
Yours is in the bag.
60% of what we we projected before we knew about the virus. And we missed our busy season, which is like the month of March and April, depending on when Easter is.
Right.
And usually that's about 30 to 35%. So we're pretty darn close of hitting. We would have hit our budget, and our budget was set pretty high.
You had that 6 week
Yep. But so instead of marketing to the entire world like we're doing right, well, not right now, but once COVID goes away, we'll go back to marketing to the whole world. So ads in Japan and all that stuff. We marketed to Arizona, California, the connected states, where you can drive to. And we.
This is Zoto, but they don't have it.
Are they good? Have you go there often?
We haven't been there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, especially on the highway, it'll start flapping around.
There we go. Oh yeah.
Alrighty, almost got it. Oh, jeez Louise. Alright.
Teamwork.
Alright.
That was part of the test.
It is now.
A frozen hand while you're bumping around. This is your last one today too, right?
Yeah, so some of the tour guides, they just left, and they'll be out here until sunset, but this is my last one. I'm done after this. And today's my Friday, so I'm done for the next 2 days. Fortunately, I guess we start our spring schedule, which is good, 'cause we're going to be busy, but they work us 5 full teams.
Oh, wow.
Instead of 4, like, 12s or 4 10s.
Right?
And you don't get paid for all 14 hours. You only get paid for like 11 of them.
Wow.
So we're kind of like a truck driver where it's unsafe if we just keep doing tours all day. So you do 2 tours, so usually about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. Then you get an hour lunch break, and then you do 2 more tours, and then you get an hour dinner break, and then you do another tour to end the day. But after you're done, you're not actually done, because then you gotta wash this Jeep. You can see kind of how dusty it is. I'm off tomorrow. I don't have this Jeep. Whoever doesn't want to get in a Jeep that has marks all over it. So that usually, depending on what the Jeep's like, today it's just dusty, it'll take me like 5 minutes, which is good. But in the spring, or like in the summer when it's rainy, this thing's covered in mud, it takes you like an hour. And then the next guy has to come in the morning and inspect it, make sure I didn't break anything during the day. Usually when I break something or when anybody breaks something, you hear it. But there's some things you can like let's say I hit a bump and I don't break anything, but I could tweak something. You'll notice in your morning inspection if that happens.
Well, you get a guy sitting on your hood.
Yeah, right?
You're like, what the hell? I don't even know where you come up with thinking, hey, I'm going to go sit on the hood of that Jeep.
Right?
Yeah.
That just happens to be parked next to a ledge. The better question is, how did they get out there?
They hiked. So from the parking lot where we saw that mountain biker, it's like I want to say like a 2-mile hike, maybe a little longer. So not super long.
What's it called?
Broken Arrow.
Like the movie.
Yeah, pretty much anything in this area is called Broken Arrow. The off-roading trail, the hiking trail, even that little like community area, development or whatever you want to call it, it's also called Broken Arrow. Yeah, we're not real creative here. cows or orcharders raising apples, peaches, and oranges, or growing them. And the orcharders stayed next to the Oak Creek, which is their water source. The cattle ranchers kind of spread out over all this area. Back in then, Arizona wasn't a state. It didn't become a state until 1912. And this area didn't become a national forest until 1925. Actually, the road you're driving on, it wasn't originally a Jeep trail. This was actually somebody's driveway.
You're looking at that whole valley we're in Tampa. It's like 72 acres. It's like somebody bought that valley. That's crazy.
Well, so kinda. It was a homesteader that lived back there with this cattle ranch. It was 160 acres for $10 is what it cost. Now, if you had that 160 acres, if you tried to sell it as one big plot, you're gonna make a lot less money. And when I say a lot less, I mean a little bit less. You're still gonna make millions of dollars. But if you subdivide it up, usually, depending on what your view is, you can charge about $1 million an acre.
Wow.
There you go, honey. That's how much that 2.5 acres cost.
So back in
68.
you could just throw some cattle on there and homestead it.
Homestead.
Wow. Stake your claim.
Bumper covers.
I'm gonna see how close I can get to them without them noticing. I guess I shouldn't drive a big garbage Jeep. That makes a lot of noise.
Now, what was the logic behind making this the pink Jeep come
The
tour?
pink comes from a hotel in Hawaii. We were never
Oh, the
told-
flamingo.
What's up?
Flamingo pink.
It's called the Royal Hawaiian. They named it Pink Palace, but it's flamingo pink. Yeah. The husband and wife that started this, actually in the 1950s, they were a real estate company, and they were trying to sell these houses that we're going to drive by in a little bit. Nobody wanted to live out here in the 1950s, but everybody came to visit, trying to get kind of sucked up by Hollywood to be an actor or an actress or whatever.
Are they taking a portrait with their dogs?
Yeah.
People with their dogs,
So we had a lot of people coming, but nobody buying property. So in the late 1950s, they decided they're going to change their business model. And they started the Jeep Touring Company. And that's where the color comes from, because they went and visited that in the 50s as well. Now we've been running ever since. Our longest shutdown was the COVID shutdown of like a month and a couple days. Other than that, it's weather-based. So if the trails are unsafe, we're not coming out, but that's only for a couple hours up to like 3 or 4 days. Then we're coming back out.
I'm sure they booked that photo shoot a while ago.
Yeah, they would have had to, because she has to pay.
Alright.
Yeah, so anytime you make money off of the national forest, you have to pay. If you're taking, like, now let's say if I was at Pink Jeep and I took a picture, then went home and painted it, then sold it, because I'm in the city limits, I don't have to pay, even though I'm using national forest areas. But if I was out at Chicken Point and I painted that rock formation and then tried to make money off of it, I'd have to pay the forest service.
Oh, wow.
Same thing with her. Same thing if I came out here and tried to get firewood, you can do that, but you have to pay for it. And I mean, even like, if I did that, like if I went out to Chicken Point and took pictures and then I sold it, if you sold it in Sedona, you'd probably get caught. But like if you sold it, as long as you're not like advertising it really well, they're not gonna get it. Like commercials, sometimes commercials are filmed here. They're they're directly making money off of that when you go and buy a Mercedes. And I say that because Mercedes actually filmed a commercial right where those people just were.
Oh, yeah?
About a year ago.
Really?
Yep. The best part was they
How'd they
used
get their cars?
non-operating vehicles and they made us help them.
I see you have a game camera right here.
Yep. Oh, it's not keeping track of animals though, it's keeping track of you.
Oh.
So the issue is, well, it's not really an issue. The concern is from these locals up here that this trail is being overused. And depending on when you come here, it's a pretty legitimate concern. Because if you're living in these houses, if you sat on your front step, in the spring, you could probably watch about 100 vehicles an hour